Chapter 6. Physical hazards, chemical hazards and allergens. This chapter explains how to identify a range of potential hazards including physical, chemical and food-based allergenic hazards. It also introduces a range of simple, effective control measures that can reduce the associated risks to food safety. Let's get back to the guys who are going to introduce us to the 4 different types of food hazard.
This is chapter 6 and this is all about hazards. Now there are 4 hazards. We're using our famous classic whiteboard to demonstrate this. So we've got physical, we've got bacterial, we've got chemical and we've got allergenic. Now you're going to get at least 3 or 4 questions on this, so please pay attention. Nick and I are going to have a bit of fun. I'm going to ask you a few questions as well, so play along. I'm going to test you. I'm going to test Nick as well.
Okay, thanks for that. First one we want to talk about is physical contamination. That's where something basically falls into food. Quite often it's the packaging. So when you're getting deliveries into the business, it's cardboard, it's string, it's sellotape, and sometimes it's even the staples that hold the packaging together. Golden rule is make sure you remove all outer packaging before food gets to the prep area. That's the best way by a country mile, isn't it?
It is indeed. So bacteria next for me. Bacteria can be found on a food, in food. You and me have also got bacteria on us. We can cross-contaminate food. Utensils will cross-contaminate food. You touch the toilet, don't wash your hands, things like that. These things are one of the biggest contaminants of food because we've got bacteria all over them. Also, rats, mice, rodents, animals, birds, for example.
Basically everything.
Pretty much.
Okay, the next one's chemical. Chemical contamination, luckily, doesn't happen that often, but when it does, it's very, very serious. Now, that can be such things as, say, for example, a sanitizer or a bleach left on the work surface wrongly, and you put food on it, you've suddenly got a chemical contamination issue. We'll do that in a little bit more detail separately, actually.
We will, and we'll do the same thing with allergens. We'll talk about those a little bit more detail a little bit later, but there are 14 foods that have got an allergen in, which can give a customer an allergenic reaction. So, play along with us. I'm going to ask Nick a few of these. Where would you put them? Which hazard column would you put these in? Let's start with this one. Nick actually isn't wearing his today, but earring. Where do you think? What do you reckon? Whereabouts?
Remember, you're not allowed to wear earrings in the business. Pretty obvious one, that. Physical, it's going to drop into the food.
It is indeed. Next one, tissue. What do you reckon?
Ooh.
Without blowing your nose.
Okay, if you don't blow your nose, physical. Think of the paper and the tissue. But what if you blow your nose on it? You've got potentially a bacterial issue. So I'm actually going to put it there between the two.
Let's try this one next. You're serving a beautiful, lovely piece of fish, but you've got a few bones in there. Where would that be?
Oof, that's a good one. Now you might actually say bacterial contamination because it's part of the food. No, it's a physical contaminant.
Yes, it is.
Just to test you.
Very good, Nick. Now here's another one, a fly spray. Perhaps you've got a few even flies flying around your restaurant and you go along with your fly spray all over the place. Where will that be?
Okay, think about it. As Marcus just said, I'm going to be there. It's a chemical contaminant. Remember, if you are going to spray it in a kitchen, make sure you cover the food or put it out of the way first.
Absolutely. The next one, this one here, peanut, one of our favourites. 4. Come on, Nick. Help us out. Tell us. Where would it be in those 4 columns, do you think? Where would it be?
Okay, you may initially think that, but no, it's an allergenic product. It's the top allergenic product in the UK at the moment, so you're going to probably meet a lot of sufferers with that.
It is indeed. We're going to use one of our favourites now, chicken.
Can't beat a good bit of chicken, can
Where
you?
would chicken be?
Obviously, I'm going straight there. Number
Bacterial.
one. Number one.
And if you've got some chicken, where would the chicken be? Yes, it would.
Just to test you.
Right, now then, you may have a bit of this, you may have a lot of it, but if it drops in or on the food, what hazard is hair?
Okay, it's a physical contaminant. However, what does hair contain?
It may contain a thing called what? Staphylococcus aureus, which is bacteria. So
Yeah.
we're going to put it in the middle there,
You need
Nick.
to be very careful. Obviously, we're in test kitchens now, we're not wearing hats. In a real life kitchen, you must at all time have some type of head covering. Even me, it can fall into the food, can't it?
Yes, it can. Next one up, mouse. What do you reckon about a mouse?
Where we're going to put this?
Pretty much over here, don't you think?
Reckon.
But they also harbour bacteria, don't they, Nick?
Yeah.
So in the middle.
Okay, think of mouse hairs, think of mouse droppings, physical, think of the issues from bacterial as well, so it does sit across the board, doesn't it?
So we've had fly spray. What about the fly? The fly itself. Where do you think? Ooh, nasty. Don't like flies, me.
No, same here. Again, think of it as a physical contaminant if it dies, but think about it from a bacterial issue. Flies land on food, throw up and eat that, so they can land on 30 pieces of food in under an hour. So it is a bacterial contaminant. Also, it is a physical contaminant.
Now I'm going to give Nick this one because this is a hard one. I've not got a clue. This one. Stock cubes. What do you think about that one, though?
Right, we've talked about allergenic products. This is something we call a hidden ingredient. You probably use stock in the vast majority of your savoury dishes. It can actually contain celery, which is one of the 14 allergenic contaminants. So we'll go on to that in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to put stock cubes there because it is an allergenic reaction. The one thing I probably want to finish this off with, it doesn't matter that much. What's more important is you've actually highlighted that there's a hazard coming into the business and you're doing something about it. So it's a knowledge of understanding that these things are out there and you have to stop them getting into the food. That's a key part, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So how did you do? Okay? Good. Next up from me and Nick.
We're going to look a little bit more detail at chemical contamination.
So, chemical hazards. What, Nick, have we got in this big box here?
Okay, let's have a quick look. We've got a bit of sanitizer,
A lot of hand soap.
a bit of disinfectant and a bit of bleach as well. There's a lot of chemicals you actually use in a food business, and quite rightly so. They're a great thing to bring down bacterial multiplication and prevent cross-contamination, aren't they? So you need them in the food business. It's that simple, isn't it?
Yes, you do. So chemical contamination can occur when food or deliveries are contaminated with chemicals, cleaners, sanitizers, or even pesticides or excessive preservatives.
Yeah, exactly. Now, have a think about your top selling dish. Beef lasagna?
Always a good seller.
Can never beat a beef lasagna, can you? Now, you're not going to deliberately pour a sanitizer or a bleach into that dish. However, you know, accidentally, you may be allowing these products into your dish. So this is kind of what we're talking about, isn't it?
That is so true, Nick. So chemical contamination can occur if cleaning chemicals are misused, perhaps used in the wrong concentration,
Yeah.
or items aren't rinsed properly. So a question to ask yourself is, are you following and using approved suppliers and following their instructions carefully?
Yeah, also have a think, are the chemicals used, are they delivered separately from the food order, or at least in an area separated in the wagon?
Absolutely. Are you storing chemicals in a separate area? Preferably a locked cupboard with a box. Now, here are some of the common mistakes with chemicals. These are things not to do.
Okay, very, very key one here is transferring chemicals into unmarked containers. Never ever do that. Make sure the chemical stays in the container it actually delivered in.
We have seen that so many times, haven't
Seriously,
we, in
yeah.
kitchens we've been into. The next one from me, not following the manufacturer's instructions or assuming all brand instructions are the same, because they're not. Don't do that either.
Yeah, think of, for example, sanitizer. Think of your contact time. Some say wipe on and off immediately, don't they?
Yeah.
Some say leave for 30 seconds. Some up to 2 minutes. So read the instructions. And again, using chemicals, any agents, any chemical agents, as sanitizers, as fly sprays, don't use them near open food. As we said before, store the food, get it out of the way before using them.
Got a bit of a story about that for us, Nick?
Um,
Panini grills or something?
Yeah. We're in quite a well-known coffee chain, that's all I'm going to say. And quite rightly, the lady was actually cleaning the panini grill. What she was doing wrong, she was spraying it with sanitizer on the open side, but the closed side actually had a sandwich in. It was actually working and toasting a sandwich in that side, and she's cleaning it, which is good, but wait till you finish cooking on it before you actually take it out and do anything. Obviously, I had to say something and stop her.
You did. And finally from me, don't use any strong aftershaves, perfumes or perfume soap that can contaminate food. Definitely don't do this. So, that's your chemical hazards done. but I need you to listen really, really carefully for the next section, because it is
Allergenic ingredients.
the changes now mean that we must all by law identify the presence of any of those 14 allergenic food ingredients in the food you're preparing and serving. We've helped you by providing you a downloadable summary of those 14 named allergens. Have a look at it, make sure you're familiar with it. We also do a separate level 2 accredited course on food allergens. Now, as well as stating how the 14 named allergens must be declared on a packaging, another big change is how you must communicate that to your customers. You must communicate exactly what's in the food you produce, sell, or otherwise serve. If a customer tells you they've got a food-related allergy, everyone, that's every member of your staff and team, must know exactly what to do, how to advise them, and who to inform in the kitchen. These changes also cover any ingredients supplied to other caterers, as well as loose ingredients and any finished dishes supplied directly to members of the public. You can't just make statements now to say it may contain this or it may contain that. You need to be very, very specific about what's in the product. And on these steamed puddings, ginger syrup steamed puddings, I've got to tell you, sound beautiful, you'll see that all the allergenic ingredients are actually highlighted on here in bold. So you can see exactly what allergens are present in this food product. And you've got to be specific about the ingredients that are contained in the dish. So it's therefore vital that all your staff, from your chefs through to your managers, through to your supervisors, and anybody communicating with the customers that come into your business, understand their legal and professional responsibilities with regard to all those 14 food allergens. So, consult the downloadable guide we've given you. We've also included there some hidden allergenic ingredients and also some suggestions for replacement of those ingredients with non-allergenic characteristics. Let's have a quick look next at how to identify a food allergy related attack. So you're probably thinking, Marcus, what's all the fuss about food allergies all of a sudden? Does it really matter? Now, if you're thinking anything similar to that, you need to listen real carefully, because food allergies can and do kill people every year in the UK.
That's very, very true. Okay, an allergen is actually a substance that causes the body's immune system to react, sometimes very, very dramatically, to what it considers to be a threat. Now, a very good example of that is something such as a severe nut allergy with peanuts, for example. If someone with a severe nut allergy actually swallows just one single nut, or even touches it and then touches the mouth, or even breathes in the tiniest traces of nut dust, say for example from opening a packet, they can have potentially an extremely severe anaphylactic shock, and that will even lead to death, usually within minutes.
Yeah, so you wouldn't want to be opening a jar of crunchy organic peanut butter when they're around. Yeah, now the symptoms can include severe asthma, difficulty in breathing and swallowing, swelling of the throat, mouth, redness of the skin, nausea, sickness, and in some cases, complete collapse.
Yeah. Now, sadly, approximately 10 people a year die due to an anaphylactic shock attributable to food allergies, and there are many other asthma deaths that they believe are connected to a food attack. There's over 1,000 traumatic hospital admissions every year as well within this country.
Yeah, so the likes of you and me, yes you, Anna, me and Nick, need to plan for emergency action if we consider anyone on our premises to be suffering from an anaphylactic shock, or indeed any other life-threatening event, and we need to dial 999. The plan needs to be communicated to all our staff, and if you suspect anyone is having an anaphylactic shock, you must do the following.
Okay, yeah. Attempt to keep them still and as calm as possible. It's quite difficult to do if you've ever witnessed an anaphylactic shock, but just try and reassure them and stay with them. That's kind of the key thing, isn't it?
It is. Make sure that you also call an ambulance immediately.
Yeah, and again, to repeat this one, stay with the person, try to calm them down and reassure them until the ambulance gets there.
Now then, most severe allergy sufferers will already be aware of their own condition, and as a result of that, will most probably carry some sort of medicine with them, such as an adrenaline injection or an inhaler. Ask them if they're carrying any medicine and assist them to take it, but don't administer it yourself.
unless they actually ask you to. Okay, over 150 million people have food allergies in Europe, making it now actually the most common chronic disease in the EU. It's quite a frightening statistic, is that. Recent research suggests that food allergy may affect more than 50% of all Europeans in the next 10 years. So basically, it's a growing issue. You've got to get your act together on this one.
Yeah, you have, but also potential business opportunity, Nick, as well.
Yeah, if you've got an absolutely bang-on restaurant that people know they're going to be safe in, they're going to tell their friends who suffer from similar allergies.
Yeah, they are. So think about this for a second. Before these rules came in, that you had to make it clear what ingredient was in each dish. If you got a severe allergy, every time you went out, you'd be playing kind of like a game of Russian roulette, wouldn't you?
Exactly.
Remember a few years ago, I was on a plane, can't remember where I was going now, but just in an hour in, and pilot comes on to say that we're about to get the trolley service out. Bottle of Blue Nun was what I was after. But we're not serving peanuts on the plane tonight. Why? Because someone had got a very severe peanut allergy, and the fact that we're 35,000 feet up in the air meant that any peanut dust would circulate around the plane and make that person very ill, if not kill them. So no peanuts on the plane that night. And that's why it's so important that you and everybody else in your business knows exactly what's in each dish, and you're able to tell a customer if they ask you.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. One thing to say is, obviously, allergy awareness is a growing threat and it can be deadly if you get it wrong. Go and have a look at the Food Standards Agency website, there's a lot more information, or have a look at courses. Obviously, we do an allergy awareness course as well, but make sure you understand this bit because you can kill somebody.
Be allergy aware.
Okay, let's show you quickly what we do in our kitchens. The first thing that we do is anything that we consider a risk, we use sealable containers. Peanuts, pretty common sense there, but it's going to stop things breaking out, falling, making a mess of the scene. We also label clearly, for the simple fact is you may understand it, but does everybody in the business understand that pasta, penne pasta for example, is actually made out of wheat, durum wheat? Yes, I expect you to know it, but somebody might not know it. We clearly identify the differences, obviously gluten-free flour and flour that contains gluten. Just common sense. The other thing that we do, which I strongly recommend that you do, is have a separate, complete set of utensils for working with anybody who's got an allergy issue. We don't use these in everyday use. It's just, for example, if somebody comes in and says, I've got a severe nut allergy and we're going to make something, we clean down the work surfaces first, use the ingredients that we need to use, and we just use these specific utensils. Remember baking trays as well if you're going to cook anything in the oven. So we use that on the dish, then again we clean it all down, we make sure we clean these properly and put them back in here so they can't be used again until somebody comes in and mentions they've got an allergy. So it's not rocket science, it's pretty much common sense. Label it so there can be no mistakes, and also it's going to stop any spillage, any flour dust getting into the atmosphere, etc. Pretty much common sense, and that's kind of how we do it in our business.
Nick and I are now going to talk to you about the 14 named allergens, and there just happens to be one in my drink here.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Right, go on, make a start.
Do you want me to?
Crack on.
Let me give this to the director. Okay. Now, the thing is, we're going to focus on the 14 named allergen ingredients that you've got to state on your recipe declaration forms.
Yeah.
However, be aware that there are other allergy type sufferers out there with different types of allergy. I know people that have got kiwi allergies,
Yep.
strawberry allergies, but we're going to focus on the 14 that you've got to be aware of by law. And we're going to do that by using our classic whiteboard. Want you to play along with this because there will be 2 questions, maybe even 3 questions on this in the exam. Over to you, Nick.
Okay, let's start with peanuts, probably the most well-known allergy within the UK. Peanuts, a little bit of background here, are ground nuts, i.e. they are from the ground. The next one, the reason why I'm saying that is you've also got tree nuts as well. Obviously they grow on trees. Think of things such as almond, hazelnut, walnut, pecan nut. So there's quite a lot of nuts there. So think of peanuts and think of tree nuts as well. The third one, come on. What do you think
Right,
it
now,
is?
do you know what this might be? I know it's early, but it starts with S. What could it be, possibly? Now, I'll give you a little bit of a clue. You may have been for a burger, had a few sprinkled on the top of your bun, perhaps. Maybe you've had some halva in your time or eaten some hummus. What could it be, do you think? Nick, go on, give us a clue.
Okay, sesame seeds.
Indeed.
One thing you need to be very careful of, like, if you are serving any type of buns with sesame seeds on and you're serving plain buns, make sure you separate them, because at the bottom of the tray it's very easy for the sesame seeds to actually drop in. You can very quickly cross-contaminate, so take care with those.
Very good.
The next one is cereals. You might know this as celiac disease. It is an intolerance leading up to an allergy on, it's actually the gluten within cereals, isn't it? So it's in wheat, it's in rye, barley, spelt, you name it. If you've got a gluten intolerance, it can make for quite a difficult diet, can't it?
Yes, it can indeed.
Next one, eggs.
Yeah.
Pretty common sense, pretty straightforward is that. Milk, again, I think that's what Marcus alluded to, didn't you?
It was indeed. Did you guess that one?
Yeah.
Hope you did.
Now it's actually the lactose within the milk, so there are other types of milk which, if you have an intolerance to lactose, that you can use, and also you can cook with as well. Next one is, what's a mollusk, Marcus?
A mollusk is something like a clam or a squid or oysters or scallops. Now, I won't get on my high horse here, Nick, but the next one you'll see over here is crustacean, isn't it, Nick?
Yeah.
What's the difference between a mollusk and a crustacean? Because in my opinion, they're virtually the same. Crustacea, prawn, crab, lobster, something with a shell. A bit like a clam, really, or a squid, Nick?
Shellfish.
Shellfish. But if I may, just one moment, but in this, while we were explaining this to you, they constitute 2 of the 14 allergens.
Yeah.
Important point. What do you reckon this one is then?
Well, while we're all in the same area.
Oh, should be easy for you. Begins with F, yeah? If you were going to go fishing in the... Oh, I've given it away. Oh, what? Oh, dear.
Fish. Like I said, we're lumping those together. Shellfish, fish. The next one is lupin. You may never have heard of it. It's more predominant in mainland Europe than in the UK, and it's actually flour. However, where you need to be careful is if you're buying things such as
Peas. Green beans. Anything that's in a pod generally has lupin in it.
Yes.
So if you're serving peas on your menu, someone's got a lupin allergy, you're going to make them really, really ill.
Think of things as well such as croissants and baguettes, if they're actually brought in from Europe as well. Make sure you double check. We haven't mentioned it up tonight, but things like that it will be what we will class as a hidden ingredient. It will actually be in the recipe declaration, so you must carefully check. Soya.
Yep.
Pretty straightforward. It includes soya milk as well, don't forget. Now celery, obviously it's pretty straightforward seeing celery, but again it's a hidden ingredient and you'll find it in a lot of stocks, in a lot of stock cubes, a lot of bouillons, so make sure you check your ingredients once again. And the last, second to last.
Begins with M, and no, it's not Marcus, is it? Okay, what do you think it might be? Yeah, very hot sometimes. Yeah, get it, you know, Dijon, one nice coarse grain, you know, put up in a bit of your mustard. Oh, mash. Oh, dear.
You said it again, Ante. Mustards. People are allergic to mustards. Okay, last one I'm going to leave to you, sulfites.
Thank you, Nick. Now, sulfites. If you've ever had a glass of wine and maybe had 6 glasses out of a bottle and while you're having your 6 glasses, we're reading the label on the wine, you'll find that most wines contain sulfites. Also, lots of fizzy drinks do as well, particularly like a bottle of wine that I love, Blue Nun.
Okay, and one thing I'm going to mention is just think, do you use red wine or white wine when you're creating any of your sauces? Remember hidden ingredients.
Oh, crucial point, Nick, that one.
Thank you very much.
So that's the 14 named allergens. Next up from me, allergenic controls. So here's a quick guide to what you need to do when it comes to allergenic ingredients as a food handler. You legally have got to take 3 steps to protect the safety of your customers, and step number 1 is communication. Make sure that you clearly label all your food products, itemising any potential allergens. Make all your policies clear on your menus, for example, whether or not you guarantee nut-free products. Make sure that you and all your staff members are trained to answer any questions on allergies a customer may ask you. And if you're in doubt about absolutely anything, don't guess, don't make it up, go into the kitchen and find out the answers. Step 2, you need to prevent cross-contamination. And how do we do this? A few ways. Make sure you use approved suppliers who've got a clear policy on all their allergenic ingredients. Make sure that you keep all allergenic foods separate from other foods. Make sure that you use separate prep areas and the utensils are separate, and make sure you wash down thoroughly in between. If you suspect any contamination of any food products by an allergen, destroy them immediately. And step 3, cleaning. Clean to prevent any allergenic cross-contamination. Make sure that you wash your hands thoroughly before and after prep with any allergens. Thoroughly clean any work surfaces, prep decks, chopping boards and any utensils you use before and after preparation. Remember this, the tiniest traces of an allergen can kill a customer. Remember, all food allergens can kill, so take no risks. Make sure everybody knows the procedures. That's it from me. Do the recap questions and I'll see you back in the next chapter, one of my personal favourites, personal hygiene. You know, you lot are making me look a bit weird on this course. I'm going to be talking to my agent about you.